Okay. We're going to call to order the March regular board meeting for the Solon Community School District. It is the mission of the Solon Community School District to engage every student in opportunities to learn, lead, and grow. Chris, can you call the roll?
I can. Wolf.
Here.
Rockholz.
Here.
Coons.
Here.
Alaska.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Student representative. Bree Henning.
Here.
All present.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to everyone. I don't think there's anybody registered to speak, nor do we have anybody, nor press here. Celebration of achievement. Davis?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to our intermediate school students and staff. They partnered with the Solon Food Pantry and brought in 1,034 pounds of food and an additional $155 to donate to the food pantry.
That's good.
Mhm.
Yes.
Josh has pictures there that
So the kids were asked to bring something from home.
Mhm.
the Alpha Club there kind of led it and got the school involved in this little fourth, fifth grade version of Rotary. Optimist Club. So we have a high school
It's Octagon.
Octagon Club, and then we have the Alpha.
The middle school's junior optimist. Yeah.
So we kind of got Optimist
Octagon.
all
Yeah.
Junior Optimist Alpha.
Alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alpha.
District reports, focus on learning, SciAC student feedback.
Just asked to provide just a little bit of a summary from our conversation. The Monday, I think March 4th, prior to spring break, we had our middle of the year, mid-year SciAC meeting where we invite students in to be a part of focus groups with our members. I think we had almost every member of SciAC show up that night, which is doesn't always happen. So it was really nice to have a good turnout there. And then I think we had about 20 kids show up. Yeah, about 20 kids show up.
Just to be clear, Josh sent the SciAC members an email almost every hour on the hour, reminding them. No, it really, the reminders were very helpful.
So we had 7th through 12th grade kids. I gave you a handout there that just gives a little bit of a summary. The top box there on the first page is just kind of the initial summary of learning. We asked kids and the group 4 different questions. One being what learning opportunities are preparing you for your future, which is we ask these same questions pretty much every year since we've been doing this. And then the bullet points below give you kind of really honestly the raw data from what kids told the members. Bree, you were part of that group too. The second question, what classes do you like and why? What do teachers do different in those classes? The third question, what do your teachers do to support your learning and success in school? In what ways do teachers provide you feedback about your learning and achievement? And then the last question, which was the bonus question, which tried to really open it up to the kids by setting the stage of here's your opportunity to really let us know what we can do to better and don't hold back. And so there's just some of that data, a lot of really good information. When we initially started this process, it's been 4 years, 5 years, maybe.
Yeah.
I think we've been doing this. There was some really tough, critical, feedback to the district and we started doing this. And we really, as part of just our process for the strategic plan and goals and priorities, a lot of what we do for the improvements come from the kids. In addition to other data and other resources, information that we pull together, but this is probably the most critical piece of information that we use to make some decisions. In regards to our work as a district that really impacts kids. And so when you look at that first page, the initial summary of learning, again, this, at the end of the time with the kids, we spent probably about 25 minutes with members, just kind of talking and debriefing on what did you hear, what seemed to be the most important things, highlights from the conversations with kids, and that this is a result of those things. Improving character strong delivery, mainly at the high school there. There's a strong student to teacher connection. Those relationships really were highlighted in that. Career planning was a strong, that was actually brought up multiple times as a strong component of the work that we're doing at the high school, and also knowing we're going to be doing more of that at the middle school level. Course planning, if you recall, there were some from previous years, some strong feelings about the ability to access counselors and the ability for career planning, and that was a strength this year. We felt. There's some things in here that kind of highlighted, like band and choir students not having the same access to zero block activities as well as some of the academies. I know that was something that the high school looked at last year to try to address a little bit, but that still continues to be something that comes up. Something that I was really pleased about was just their highlight of just the learning process that provides flexibility in classrooms. Voice and choice was brought up, hands-on learning, digital learning tools as an option, but then they also highlighted that they'd like the opportunity to have digital online learning tools as well as hard copy, more analog, I guess might be the term to use. Opportunities for learning, one-on-one opportunities with staff. They really highlighted the high school math team and their strategies that they use in their classes to support students. And I'm not going to read all of these, but some of the major highlights that for overall their feedback was really positive, with some areas that we'll shed some light on as we continue to work and improve as a district. So yeah, any question?
Those of you that can remember, we bring this feedback, we try to bring this feedback every year. Katie's position, the college and career counselor, that really was driven by a lot of the 2 to 3 years in a row, kids just really critical about needing more at the high school, more time, more supports, more direction, more. And so that really drove us to search and seek, and Katie was the solution to that position, which has been very helpful.
It's interesting to look at students want more paper pencil opportunities.
Yeah,
as
that
opposed
was
to digital. I mean,
and there, I think there's a mix, there's a balance, and that's, I think the intent of all of what we're doing with, digital learning tools has really been, there should be a balance. There should never be one over the other. Should be able to use those digital tools to be able to create and learn and grow based on the content.
The table I was at referenced liking paper better because it was more reliable.
Mhm.
So I had to do more about the technology and the fact that it sometimes was glitchy or didn't work or couldn't log in. And that creates a sense of anxiety when they want to get their homework done or they want to try to perform, not necessarily that.
yeah,
Learning digitally
Yeah,
is bad.
I see their side.
I can see it too, so that's where there's something to be said about paper and pencil is a pretty reliable tool.
Was there anything that you thought from that conversations?
Our table didn't really talk about it in the sense of pencil and
Yeah.
paper, but I don't know, personally, I don't really like storing paper, but it helps with retention.
Right. Yeah, sure.
When you look through this list, are there points that resonate with you and your classmates? Are there things that kind of stick out?
For the last one in
Yeah.
particular. I don't think about what we talked about. I don't know if there were any huge things. I think one of ours was more from the middle school side, is incorporating career opportunities younger. I think was one of the big ones one of the students talked about.
And they call the Mr. Thompson the goat.
Yeah.
Some of the middle schoolers, they're so pleased with the help and support that we've had in the last several months as they've navigated this transition that to embark on between middle school and high school. How helpful he's been to.
Good.
One thing too, that conversation's happening more, having an 8th grader that is now a freshman, right?
Yes,
I think they appreciated having some of that stuff, and then the transition of Mike and those guys do a great job of getting them prepared, and then Zach taking over. I think they do a pretty good job of transitioning those kids, so.
I have a little gap between my last 8th grade year and this 8th grade year, so it's a little bit different. You know, expectations are a little clear, how to get your classes, so you know, more evident, and so it's good opportunities for them to get into classes, so.
So what are the next steps with this, as the admin team dug into this, how do we? prioritize
No,
this?
well, some of the next steps is, one, just regarding the SIAC team. I haven't even shared this quite yet with all of them and getting that into their hands. And then, you know, one of the suggestions from the SIAC team was also to share some of this information with the students who came, which I thought would be a really great opportunity for them to see. Here's all the information they shared that we're gonna take a look at it. And part of this we'll bring this back, our next SIAC meeting, I think is May 20th. We'll bring this back along with some other data points to generate some potential recommendations for the board to consider as part of our strategic plan. And then we'll also be digging into this as an administrative team, kind of looking at what do we notice about the data, what are some strengths, what are some questions we still have, and maybe some challenges that we to do with that. And then some of this information will be incorporated into next year's priorities and goals as we continue to improve, so.
You know, one of the things we're already addressing, and I think I mentioned this before, is as we take our industrial tech teacher, he currently is doing a stint in the exploratory rotation at the middle school. We're gonna take him full time to the high school. We're gonna replace that time with an ICAP type of position. So Mike and Zach and the high school ICAP team are working on curriculum, our counselors on curriculum in order to kind of start some of that in 6th grade and have it better articulate all the way up through what's currently taking place at the high school, so.
If you go back, so what's leaving the middle school, what's being replaced with, so.
So it was about 25-6 lessons that JJ, industrial tech teacher, would deliver to the middle school. What we learned was, and he can only do so much over there. We just don't have like an industrial tech room. So he's gonna go full-time to the high school, so adding welding and some other coursework there at the high school. In place of his rotation at the middle school, we'll be putting in some academic career planning stuff for the middle school, yeah. Yeah, so they'll get more exposure as it was, we saw in the feedback, they'll get more experiences, more exposure. We've talked to Kirkwood as far as their role in it. But right now, I believe we've got the plan that ICAP team gonna meet in May, early May.
May 1st, we're gonna have 2 supports from Grantwood. They've already shared some resources with us, and then we'll kind of plan 6-12 collectively with our ICAP team from the high school, and then the members from the middle school that we're gonna add. And we'll probably break up in some capacity that day as well. Because focus on each specific building. With the hope to have, you know, a set curriculum for 6th, 7th, 8th grade that differs, and then build up into what we started in 9th grade with those 5 components of career academic plan. So.
What's the curriculum in the covering?
So self-understanding, career exploration, there's like a post-secondary decision-making component, post-secondary exploration, and there's one other one. And so like, some of those obviously will be heavier at the lower grade levels, then you're not gonna have 8th grade or 7th grade, or even a lot of post-secondary decision making. Really is, so I
Are
kept,
you having to create that on your own?
yeah, well.
Yeah.
Um,
At this point.
Zello will be very helpful because we have a lot of resources. So it's gonna be using the resources, but then using our teachers. There'll be teachers from the middle school and ICAP team for them, because just like there are for us. And so it'll become more of a DCAP district career and academic plan. So the state has kind of shifted towards.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah, which we're required to have a speed cap, so.
A DCAT, remote,
District.
to DCAT?
District career and academic plan.
Gotcha.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question or request. You know, I'm gonna be popular, so we discussed this. Moving into ISB conference. I would like you to bring up at SIA. What parents would be like if there weren't phones at school. So. You know what I mean? Because I see it in my own work, everybody goes in the break room, nobody talks to each other anymore. You know what I mean? And then I have friends in positions. Kids need soft skills, kids, you know, all those things that transition into. You know, well, we're just bad, but you know, but just what that may look like, and if we get, you know, I mean, I'm not really good. Both words, but
That's the question.
a lot of parents that I've talked to, you know what I mean, from a variety of districts, be like, I love it. You know what I mean? So I don't know what that looks like, and, you know, obviously one input from you guys, but, you know, trying to develop all the way out, being with each other.
I'll add it to the agenda.
I'm for it.
Anything else? Admin reports, high school principal search process. Congratulations, Zach, on the new position formally. You did a great job. We're gonna miss you. But now we got to replace you.
So as you know, we've recruited the help, contracted with Grundermeyer Leader Search. He's done several searches for us in the past. We've already advertised, that's up and running. He's got it out through his network, it's posted, you know, everywhere it needs to be posted and advertised. There's a March 30th deadline. We have April 8th as a screening week and April 15th as interviews. We pulled kind of our format from our previous ones, made some tweaks. Once we narrow it down to a select few of candidates, they'll go through a four station rotation. We've got a student group that will be part of the interview process. We've got a parent teacher group that'll be part. The candidate will then receive a tour of the school and then meet 2-on-1 with Josh and I. And so they'll go through a rotation of 4. Typically 4 candidates is what, you know,
Screen it down.
somewhere from, you know, depending on, you know, 2 to 4, depending on how close finalists are in that process. So April 15th will be the day, so.
You pay for a lot of things.
Any questions on process or? Okay.
Lee, any questions?
No, I heard about.
Okay. Yeah. They expected 20 to 25 apps is what he believes we'll get, good apps.
Good apps or total apps?
He said good, didn't he? He said quality apps,
He
20 to 25.
added good at the end of that.
Mhm. Mhm. Josh and I had another meeting with him, also helping him in the process is a former superintendent from a corridor district, retired, that's helping in the process. We met with them this morning via phone and just kind of again went through characteristics, you know, what we're looking for, kind of the climate and the culture of our current building and things that are going very well, some priorities. They've got a copy of our strategic plan, the high school's building plan. Survey, the community staff, they're being surveyed. He's collecting all that survey. We'll meet again once he gets all that compiled.
Closing
So-
date for the stakeholder surveys tomorrow, so. Got about 90 responses. From teacher and parent group, or parents. So. And I also sent out a student one. They want to have a principal's fun. That's the consensus on that.
Not the last few years.
I think it is, that's how well. Students are that, yeah. We have those two.
Mhm.
So we're excited. It's gonna be a very comprehensive process. And then, we also met with a representative from Iowa Workforce Development. They've kind of leading the charge with these, apprenticeships, what Bree's involved in. Nursing was our first experience. Our partnership with Iowa Workforce Development is through a consortium at the AEA with this nursing one. We've had conversations about expanding that out to welding. Our conversation earlier this week was with HVAC. And with that, during our conversation, we also asked Iowa Workforce, the contact that we have now, to reach out to within our community for maybe the possibility of partnering with buildings and trades and construction. So Jay would too, yeah. So once we get our feet wet, as we expand this out, we have a lot of resources in our community. Jay's a good one. That's a good thought. Yeah, heavier equipment and things like that, yeah.
Any questions? Board committee updates.
Is there an opportunity, so because of my position that I have for a full-time job, I do know there's a lot of healthcare, but there's also a lot of teacher preparation apprenticeships that are starting across the nation.
Mm-hmm,
Out the teacher shortages.
mm-hmm.
Have we explored any of that opportunity?
That's on the radar. That's a plan. In fact, for students, yes, we've talked about getting that started. We've talked a little bit with College Community School District as far as partnering. We've also just are setting a date with William Penn University
Excellent.
to come up, and this is for our associates. And to meet with all of our associates in the district. And to they've got a game plan, William Penn does, that will help them get a teaching degree all online. And work with them that way. So just to present them too. So not only are students maybe an opportunity to start in, but our current employees that maybe want to advance their career from associate to teacher.
I can see the need, definitely.
Yeah.
To build that pipeline for that profession.
Yeah. I know we've got a lot of good students. We utilize students because of our associate shortage. We utilize high school students, and
Great.
Zach's done a good job of kind of like, hey, who's interested? And a student may say, well, I've got 90 minutes that I can. Okay, we'll take you 90 minutes here, and we actually pay them.
That's great.
So, yeah. How many do we have that we rotate in right now? Do you know?
6 right now. Are working to fill.
A couple positions.
Yeah, some of them are 2 grades and one period.
Well, and I know you and I have talked about this, Davis. Do they get a little bit of training? Do they get, because this is like from classroom into classroom is a different experience.
John, we provide, I would say minimal training, but enough to feel like they can
Handle the.
Every assignment's really pretty different. It's not
Gotcha.
a blanket, assignment. And we try to put them in assignments that are not.
Right.
Yeah. Even the best people.
It is a good thought, and as I mean, we're back to this year doing this because we tried it, was it last year? Or the year before, 2 years ago, and it was successful. So we came back to it this year because there's some holes that we just haven't been able to fill.
Sure.
But it's a great thought for the team just to talk about,
Well,
kind of an after action review and how's it going?
As
and
kids.
How do we improve it? Yeah.
You know, I mean, what would have been helpful for you when you started and, you know, because I'm sure some classroom management stuff for. For that, I mean, I'm just picturing my kids in those rooms.
So we're not putting
Right,
anybody in a position where the management is.
right,
It might be a work refusal type student.
right,
And we've had really some nice success with that. That
Yeah.
kids have responded better to
yeah,
a 18-year-old
for sure,
than a 40-year-old.
just like coach.
There's, in the different clusters and career pathways that you create, there is actually a teacher preparation pathway that you could even probably take an elective, get towards your graduation credit online, and then maybe that is improvements to fulfilling an associate role of some sort to really get at that exploration.
It's good.
Check out your course.
So I guess as we look at the, there's, you know, we've got the internships that we can do through workplace learning connections, so. We're not talking about apprenticeships, which are longer term paid sort of positions. How are we balancing those in terms of interest levels that students have? Because I think that different things are gonna open up to different opportunities. What are we doing to make sure we're finding the right opportunities? Because we've got a lot of different interests in our student base. How do we have enough resources in place to help them figure this out? It seems like there's another thing that gets added on to high school, which is, you know, try to manage this along with your college prep and your course selection. And how do we envision that working in terms of pushing it all forward?
If I'm understanding, I mean, right now, I guess more so it's being driven by. I mean, the nursing was driven, I mean, we have a lot of healthcare in neighbor, but it was also because. Grantwood was there to help put the consortium together. Other than that, it's been more. What, Jim Linden had actually reached out to workforce development. And and then he had asked for a letter. It's like, well, yeah, of course we're on board. I didn't know you were interested. And so it's been more so what resources have stepped up has been more the driving factor than what are students asking for. We haven't had a lot of students come to us and say, hey, I'm interested in an apprenticeship. That's something that, we'll probably get more communication with those sophomores, juniors that are more eligible for those, as far as making them aware of, we've got these opportunities. And so right now it's probably more so what's been in our community and what's presented itself, if that makes sense.
I think the younger you can start with that would be better, because I know a lot of people are intimidated by like the work amount requirement. That is 2,000 hours. I know the only reason I'm really able to, or possibly able to complete my hours is because I got my CNA my sophomore year. So that's
I think different
something to
apprenticeships
think about.
have different levels of hours. What was the one we were talking?
Yeah, so
6,000 hours.
there's two categories of apprenticeship. Registered and what pre-apprentice. A registered welding apprenticeship is 60,000 hours. And they said that's beyond high school that you would continue to monitor their hours. So now we're looking at, well, what would a apprenticeship be as far as hours? So every area has different hours that are assigned to it, so. We're learning too, all of this stuff. It was a great conversation. We finally have like a face and a contact, and so we'll build a relationship with Abby at the workforce development. We'll continue to learn and grow in this.
Any other questions?
No, it's just great to hear, and the move, just keep pushing.
Yeah,
Okay, board committee updates. Finance committee meeting that was packed earlier, earlier this week. So we set up the process of looking at, what we'll be able to do salary wise, as we look together in groups. We're still waiting on the state to settle, their SSA. When I listened to Isthmus thing this afternoon, it sounded like there was an agreement reached and they're waiting on the wording to get it introduced in the House, so we might know tonight what SSA is gonna be, so.
What was that agreement?
The details were not yet,
Oh.
the speculation was that the House, the Senate, the governor reached compromise on AEA. Starting, or the minimum teacher salary and SSA, it was all gonna be bundled together into one compromise bill. It sounded like since the governor and the Senate were at 2.5 and the House was at 3, that it was gonna come down to 2.5, but they're gonna take the House's language on the AEA stuff, and so we'll wait and see. No one had seen the language, so this just basically said, we'll know more tonight. Join us next week for the call, and it might already be passed by then, so. Because they scrapped their entire discussion of what the Senate passed last week, because it's already moved, so.
Well, thank you for the webinar. One district that Gal was talking about, they do, on their board meetings, they have a finance update. You know, every time, you know, that. And then this popped into my head, it might be interesting if Pat or you wrote a paragraph just that came out, like, right, these are, because you know, it's always good to, like, you know, unspent balances and how these things, you know, just refreshing ourselves on some of these things that, you know, we can educate ourselves on just throughout the year rather than have to go sit down with Pat. You know what I mean? And then those things can be easily recirculated.
Yeah,
It's some of those districts who are bigger, right, like Dallas, Scandia.
Yeah. But I mean, you know what I'm saying, though,
Yeah.
it'd be just like, you know, where's our solvency right now? What are we thinking about? You know, why are we so high right now? How are we spending this, you know, things that we can just temperatures of where we are on some of our financial indicators. We do it yearly, but I think it would be like educational almost too, that we could, you know, on some of those, because sometimes we all know the basics, but then there's 201 and 301. We could pop in some of those too.
Yeah, it makes sense. Some of the measures like solvency are a little quirky because of the way the state money flows.
For sure.
And so, you know, it depends what day you look at it, you know, so the day after we get a big infusion of money from the state, yeah, we could go on forever, you know, right?
So Pat's on, I think, Pat, you can hear us, right?
Yep, I can. I'm absolutely up for that. You guys know I love to talk finance, so absolutely.
And so I think it makes sense, we should, you know, because we get the reports that come out to the board, you know, from Pat and her role as the treasurer of the district, so we get those monthly from her on where we're at.
Right.
But they don't necessarily come to the board table for public discussion, so I think
Just a thought.
I think we're happy to chat with her about what makes sense to present and what.
So I think, I don't think it needs to be a whole big.
No, I don't
but
think so
Like
either.
you said, if you pick down one or two things and just.
Yeah,
I mean,
one
this is
simple
something to
thing.
look at for this.
Yeah, and this is just, what's the definition? What is that? You know, reminding you what's all the management fund and, you know, those little things that you.
So, yeah, but to that point, I think we'll probably have to do an exempt session between now and April to get things finalized for the so we can be in a spot where we can move forward with contracts for the non-teaching staff. If we want to be able to do that, so we'll have to, once things get settled, and Pat's comfortable where the numbers are at, we can close our loop and then have an exempt session to work through that. Anything else, Cassie, from that?
Well, no, but I think we're talking like the action items.
Yeah.
We can talk a little bit more about the public hearing.
Yeah.
That we talked about a little bit.
Anything from the other committees?
I did go to the softball meeting last night. They're just looking at some improvement stuff. We've in the fall, summer, Casey was there. They're definitely gonna need to do some stuff with lighting. just, electrical stuff, that's just safety. And then they're looking at kind of adding chain, stuff around. Possibly just dugout updates, they're kind of budgeting out what they think things will look like, so look for that probably in the next month. They'll have some numbers put together, and then,
Just to confirm that, we'll go through the activities. Fund.
Health and safety stuff is.
Yeah, it's health
is district funds,
For the softball,
so anything that's safety related,
Oh.
the district is responsible for.
not the activity fund?
Lighting, lighting will be Pebble.
Oh.
Yeah, lighting would be Pebble.
Good to know.
And Brian, I think it has his third, we knew, I mean, we're gonna have to address some lighting issues with the boxes and the wiring and stuff like that. Sometimes there's a small little shock when you go there. Yeah, so
He was in the office that day.
I think Brian has his third contractor in for he's received 2 bids already, and
Okay.
I think it's probably gonna be
That comes from-
anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 to address.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the old field, so turn the light on once. And it's all these sparks,
Yeah.
they burned his code.
Hmm.
So let's not get there.
yeah, so some of the stuff we just absolutely have to do,
Yeah.
right? And then there might be some repair stuff on some of the lights, we can do LEDs,
And then it'll be, we've talked, it'll be a conversation too with the facilities and the board as far as short-term, long-term, what is our vision for that field itself sitting right there, before we gave permission to fundraise for the baseball project and contributed some money towards that project. We went, to the city to say, hey, let's look at our 28E and make sure that, in 5 years, it's not going to be broken. So I think we extended that out 20 years. So we've got a 20-year agreement there. So we just want to make sure that if we're going to invest money, whatever we're going to invest money into, it's going to be long-term.
on the update.
Okay, anything else, consent agenda, anything we get pulled out? Look out, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, a motion to approve consent agenda items as presented.
Motion by Leska, second by Coons, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Action items, set public hearing on FY 25 budget for April 18th, 2024 at 5:30 PM. Pat, you wanna talk to us about numbers?
Absolutely, I can. Yep. So if you want to pull up, I think it is the item that is, let's see down there. Public hearing for 4/18/24, that one. Article 8, number 1. One up, there you go, right there. Okay, so this is the one you're probably used to seeing. Last year in the budgetary process, they changed a couple of things, one of them being the deadline. It's now April 30th. Second piece was that we're going to have not 1, but 2 public hearings. This notice here is the one that you normally see. And the cool thing about having the April 30th date means you guys don't have to have that extra board meeting in April like we've done before. So long story short, as we look at this one here, you can see to the furthest right-hand column, you've got the average of the years. We're saying average on here is 23 to 25%. And then next column over is actual 2023. So that's data that's been audited and it's through the CAR process. Then the re-estimated 24 takes all funds into accounts, best as I know of yesterday, as where I think things are going to fall in at. And then 25 runs majority through the aid and levy. And then we estimate as best as we can for revenue on the top part and expenditures on the bottom part. There are a few numbers I do want you to look at. So if you look at line number 4 and number 5, tuition and transportation, up to the top, there we go. Tuition and transportation, if you look at 2023, 524,000. Then you go to current year, 439. And then you go to an estimate, we're at 352. So that's kind of where we've talked about the open enrollment process being closed, is that's where tuition kind of, you can see that decrease there. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. And then line 5, that one's kind of the opposite effect. You can see that's interest earnings. So from pre-COVID to COVID, then after COVID, then you can see 2023, 190,000. And Then, no, this next one is not a typo, 502,000. And then I did back it off just a little bit for next year, assuming I like to play under as far as assuming at some point we're not going to see the high interest rate we're getting right now. So those are a couple of things I wanted to point us out as far as revenue. The other thing I wanted to point out was if you look at line number 17 and the revenue, you can see in 2023, 0, 2024, 13, almost 14 million. You could say, well, we sold bonds in June. So why is it not there and why is 24 so high? So we sold them, but the actual sale didn't take place until July. So we have those from last July, then we'll have another round this June, actual sale and funds in June of 9,995,000. And then we'll have another sale next fiscal year. So you can see we went to 0 to almost 14 million, then 10 million. If you scroll down to the expenditure piece of those, which would be lines roughly 24 down to 31 there, there's four areas the district spends funds in, and they are noted in bold and asterisks. We have instruction, that includes your general instructional teachers, co-curricular, vocational, and co-curricular, vocational, special education. The next ones down from 25 through 30 are all the support services, student support, instruction, general admin, school admin, plan ops, student transportation. So the total on 31A is all of those. Non-instructional programs, which is nutrition fund and before and after school. That's on line 32. And then the last bold one, which is 35A, encompasses your Facilities Act, debt service, and AEA support. And I will bring your attention to line 35A over to the furthest right. You see that really large number of 110.9%. Reason being is just what we talked about. So in 23, we sold bonds, but we didn't have major construction projects going on. We now have multiples going on. We'll have multiple the year after that and that. So that's the reason that percentage is up. Last thing I'll point your attention to is at the very bottom, property proposed tax rate. Current fiscal year is 16.28035, proposing the same for next year, 16.28035. And all that information that you're viewing is based on 2.5 SSA. Now, if it should happen to change, Department of Management makes sure they take care of that. They send us the preliminaries, and then I go back in and say, hey, we need to bring down management fund or whatever it might be to get to that 16.28035.
Questions for Pat? Pat got 20 questions for Cassie and I, so. So if there's no questions, what we'll do is a motion to approve the public hearing with the proposed tax rate. And remember that once we set that tax rate and publish, we can't go up. We can go down, but we can't go up. So
Correct. Thank you, Tim.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the
1628,035.
the what?
1628. 035.
Actual tax, I have to approve the tax rate.
Yeah, we've got a.
No, we're
I'd like
just-
a motion to approve.
We're just approving the hearing.
We're approving the hearing, but at the hearing, we have to publish a tax rate.
Don't I just have, sorry, we'll redo that, but I don't have to motion to approve the second public hearing.
We're approving the public hearing with the published tax rate of 1628,035.
I make a motion to approve the proposed published tax rate at 16.28035 as presented.
So motion to set a public hearing for FY25, May 18th, 2024 at 5:30 PM with a published tax rate of 1628,035. Motion by Rokas, second by Alaska. Any discussion?
Pat, you're good with that tax rate?
I'm good with that. We can make it work.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank
So
you.
public hearing for FY25 property tax statement for March 27th, 2024, which is next week at 5:30 PM. Pat, you want to explain to them why we have another, why the legislature decided we should have two of these things?
Well, that's a really good question. I wish I could answer that, but
Okay.
Yeah, so this is totally new. So this property tax statement basically is gonna go, you guys, I don't know if you've seen yours, I haven't got mine yet, but it's gonna show you your property and what you're paying on it. So for our purposes, which if you pull up, I believe it is Article 8, number 2. Yep, that one right there. It's kind of confusing. So if you look at the furthest left-hand column, it shows current year final property tax dollars. So as of this year, that grand total on line 10, almost 9.3 million, okay, shows corresponding tax rate. Then what they do in the middle section is they say, all right, let's take those 9.3, let's put them into 25. Now, keeping in mind that your property tax valuations have increased, what would that do to the corresponding tax rate, which you can see corresponding next to that 15.24. Then to the right, extrapolates it further and says, okay, what are you as a district proposing? You can see that we're proposing the same tax rate. Taxes have gone up, reason being valuation on property has increased, not our tax rate, but just the property taxes that we're taking in. So this is the first time this is going to be held. I really don't know as far as how many people, any of that. It's just now a requirement that we have to have as part of a budgetary process.
Pat, were you on the ISPIS today?
I did not. I was actually out this afternoon.
So, other districts, other counties have already put them out and they're getting lots of questions because no one understands what they are because they're not, the numbers aren't defined. To give an example during today's call, that middle column would be if you took, they used Caitlin Clark in basketball as an example. They said if you take the number of 3-pointers Caitlin Clark made last year and divide it by her number of attempts that she had this year, that would be that middle number. So we're gonna take a numerator from one year and a denominator from another, and we're gonna call that a rate, and that's what they've done. So last year, yeah.
They don't have any mathematicians over
Last
there.
year's numerator versus this year's denominator, you know. So, and that's what they're coming up with, so. And it really makes no sense.
So it's really kind of arbitrary. Yeah, it's just a number.
It's a number and it's, the challenges we talked about on Tuesday is just that we control so little of our budget, right?
Yeah.
Apple's voter approved, structural support levies voter approved. You know, the state sets our general fund values and the voters approve our money for bonding. And so we've really got very little control in our budget. Management fund and cash reserve are really what we control to set our rate. And so we're left in a spot where, you know, unlike cities and counties that can kind of set whatever they want, we're left with, we need X amount of money based on what the state's told us and what the voters have approved, and that's how our rate is determined. So, yeah, the number makes very little for us. But if this went out with both ours, then if you live in the city of Solon, you'll get one that says what this, you'll get the same thing for what the city's doing, same thing for what the county's doing. So it'll be a lot of confusion and they mentioned that board members have been getting, around the state have been getting phone calls from people going, I don't understand this. And so just be prepared that you might get a phone call and
I can say neither do that.
yeah, that's what they're trying to do. It's like, this might make sense for somebody. It's like, that's what the number means. So. Pat, anything else?
No, that's it, unless there are questions that you guys have for me.
No question, but if we approve this, do we have to use the rate or tax number, or we just approve the public hearing for that date?
We're just approving the public, this has already been mailed out. It's one of these things, none of it makes sense because we approve it after the county's already. After the deadline for the county has to set it out, so it's, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll approve, motion to approve the public hearing for fiscal year 25 property tax statement for March 27, 2024 at 5:30 p.m.
Second.
Motion by Leska, second by Wolf. Any discussion? And just as a reminder for both these public hearings, they'll last however long they last. We'll meet and we'll wait, and it's like most years we'll sit here for 10 minutes and then no one will have showed up and we'll adjourn, and if there's 100 people here, we'll listen for 100 people, so.
You guys have that on your schedule, we can have 3 of you at least?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We had a motion, a second, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Tentative contract agreement approval with certified teaching staff. We met with the teacher, we exchanged contract offers with the teachers and we're proposing, we entered a tentative agreement for the average of 3.5 over the next 5 years. So that's what we're seeking the approval on, and then we'll implement it and get contracts out to our teaching staff. I'll entertain a motion to approve the,
So moved to approve the tentative contract agreement with certified teaching staff.
motion by Coons,
Second.
second by Alaska. Any further discussion? Like the only thing is we're not exactly sure when the contracts are gonna go, we'll know more once the state approves the SSA and changes the salary. We don't want to send contracts out more than once if the state changes the minimum salary, so we're holding off on everything until that comes in, so. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Local government risk pool natural gas contract fiscal year 25. Pat, you want to tell us how we did how we're doing in fiscal year 24?
Actually, like I sent you when I sent the first look at the contract. So the contract for fiscal 25 is lower than what we're currently paying. I believe it's 76,000 in current year, and the one we'll be going into, assuming approval tonight, would be 59,000. So those of you that remember, we basically took the natural gas and took it out of the general fund and legitimately paying out of the management fund. So opening up some dollars in the general fund to be spent in different manners.
Always good to save money. Yeah, out of the general fund. Cassie, anything from our meeting? Pat, we appreciate you looking at these things.
Me,
Oh,
back
excellent.
Oh,
in the day.
yeah.
Oh.
How many people were in the pool now? Lots, we don't.
We have quite a few. I'll send you the, I can send,
I was just curious.
They made a pitch for it during the ISFAS thing, which is the deadline for signing up for FY 25 is, I think, the end of this month, so.
Good for them. Which means good for us.
I'll make a motion to approve the Iowa local government risk pool for natural gas contract year, fiscal year 25, as presented.
Second.
Motion by Alaska, second by Wolf. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
thank you.
You have board policy 505.9, parent and teacher engagement. Davis, Josh?
So, there's a little line down here at the bottom. I think there's been an oversight the last couple of years, few years. The board will review this policy annually. And we need to have that dated as I'm doing state reporting, and that was something that they noted. That we didn't have an updated review of our policy, so putting that on tonight, just as a approval that we've approved it, and we can date that as appropriate. There's no changes or anything like that.
Motion to approve the second reading of the board.
No.
It's not even a reading.
Just a review, yep.
It's just a reading. I think all we have to do is review.
Mhm.
We just have to acknowledge.
First reading and second reading.
I think at this point, we're all, I think it's just the.
We just reviewed.
Review of
reviewed
it,
I
yep.
don't even,
Yeah, that's what it states. Yeah, it states right here, board policy.
because what we generally do is when you guys, when we go through the policies, from a governance standpoint, in theory, every time we go through a cycle, it gets reviewed, even if we don't update it. So the updated number or revised number date is different than the review date, because the review date tends to be when we go through that cycle. So I don't even know what the wording is for this. Just, you want a motion?
Approve review of the board policy, yep,
That would work.
So moved.
yep. And then next year, it's the 500 series, so then it'll automatically get, yep,
And then we'll have to just remember the year after that.
Yes.
And you're retired.
yeah.
Motion by Coon, second by Alaska. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Second reading of board policies 104, 502.7, 605, 3R1, 713, and the removal of all 104 procedural policies.
Mhm.
Anything we want to say about those? We didn't say last time?
I think we're good.
Mhm.
Was for the second reading of board policy 104 on anti-bullying and harassment. 5, as, as presented.
Mhm.
Motion by Kuhn, second by Rockels. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Bond council disclosure engagement agreement, proposes issuance of approximately 10 million in general allocation school bonds, series 2024. Davis? Anything we need to say?
No, just continue on our projects, continuing our projects, yeah.
This is the first step. This is the bond council, bond council disclosure agreement, and then after this, we'll have another thing where we're approving the next phase of things, right?
Next month.
Yes.
Mhm.
Specific language for this?
Hold on, I'm checking. This is just, Pat gave me this one. This is just saying, Pat, am I right that we're
This is just the
taking
bond
care of
council.
starting the process?
Yeah, I think the motion could just be approved, bond council and disclosure council engagement with,
That we
Or-
let them help us do this all.
yep.
Okay,
All right, motion to approve bond council and disclosure engagement agreement, for proposed issuance of approximately 10 million general obligation school bonds, series 2024.
Motion by Alaska,
Second.
second by Wolf. Any discussion?
Just, okay, so.
what this means is
Here, what-
they help us,
So,
the attorneys help me get all the information ready for you guys and help us follow the process. Am I right, Pat?
yeah, so remember we had the,
Approving our attorneys
you know, we started this.
to do the work.
They can't, the bonding company can't represent themselves, and the bond, people are selling the bonds to us, so we have to have our own counsel to review that and make sure that we're not being taken to the cleaners,
Which is ours.
which is all ours, and so we're basically hiring all ours to do this. Way back in the day, I think we were able to have this done just within their, they could hire out within their costs, somebody to represent us, and then they would have their own to represent them. Now we have to do it ourselves, so it's an extra step,
Mhm.
but the same outcome, which is we'll sell bonds.
During a council that will ensure up to $10 million that.
Mhm.
Basically review all the disclosure documents. Basically, the attorney is going to go through and make sure that we're gonna get our money and that there's no funny
We're not
business. in it.
paying the attorney $10
No.
million.
No, we did this,
Yeah.
To get our bond money, that they're gonna make sure that the transactions are good for us.
And then we're not.
Yeah.
The disclosure agreements are accurate.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
They also go through and I do a phone conversation with Beth Grove and I also do one with Tim Oswald. And we go through full disclosure as far as our finances. Is there anything? And they'll ask specifically enrollment. They'll ask about all those things. So they do due diligence, not only on our side for making sure things are good, but they also take care of the finance side to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And it's worked wonderfully so far.
We had a motion and a second. If there's no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. When will the next thing be on the list, Pat? Is that next month?
next month.
Okay.
18th. Yep.
Informational items, proposed school budget.
Mhm.
Pat, anything more you want to say?
I don't think so unless you guys have any questions. Like I said, I'm always happy to talk about finance, but if there aren't any questions, I'm not going to bore you with it.
I think the only thing to probably bring up is, is that, we'll be looking at next year and with the budget numbers and the SSA and the settlement. Our solvency ratio will go down next year, which is part of the plan. So, I think that's the only thing from our meeting earlier that we probably should highlight is that, when you look at the numbers later this year, you'll be like, the proposed, when Pat tells you what the estimated solvency at the end of next year is gonna be, you'll be like, wait a second, this went down. It'll be because we're gonna spend more money than we bring in next year.
Mhm.
So
Just a quick question, with all the property value assessments going up, will that affect our budget
In a positive way.
in a positive way?
Yeah, sure.
well, it allows us to pay, as Pat explained it to us, the more value property in our district allows us to cover our increased expenses without raising the property tax rate. So, if we were to decline, if we didn't have increased property value, and we had that increased expenditures, then we would have to raise property tax rates to cover the added extra revenue. So our revenue will go up.
Right.
But the tax rate will stay the same, so that will cover those, but we're still gonna, it won't go up as much as our spending is gonna go next year.
And I think the other thing worth noting is you guys have seen over the past few years, our solvency, which Tim did say, has been higher than where the indicators are supposed to be at. So it's kind of because of that, we're able to continue on as we have. Potentially using a little bit of fund balance to get to where we need to be, because we know potentially next year's enrollment may look a little different as well. So we may have a couple of years where you as a board know our solvency is going to drop a little bit, but not at an alarming rate.
But COVID kind of impacted some of those numbers, right? Why we were so high,
Yes.
and that's.
And also some cost savings to try and, you know, in case we open another wing and building projects, so there's been some intentional efforts to have cash around to manage those growths, but you know, that'll really play here.
And we did have weird. We did have a weird year also, where if you remember, we had some different staffing situations as far as teachers leaving the district in the middle of a year, different things happening, which then obviously changes the landscape of the expenditures too. So mid-year can't really plan on those, but when they happen, they do change things.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, thanks for all you do, Pat.
Yeah, thanks.
Abs- Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Activity fees, Casey?
Yeah, so I gave you a couple of handouts, kind of the big thing that's been new the last few years in our area is. We've had our school that's been our platform for scheduling. And. If you look on the one that says town plans, this is kind of the different plans they have. Now, Bounds came in and they're based out of Iowa, but they're going nationally. And it's really kind of forced our hand. It used to be a quick stats the state makes you do. You put in all your schedules and all your stats go into quick stats is what it used to be called. And now it's found. And it's really, as a conference, it's forced our hand a little bit. They have a lot of awesome stuff and it's going to be really good. But they're still trying to build it to be perfect. But what's happening is all the schools around us have started going to Bounds, so it forced our hand, because we're living in our school world still, which we're all happy with our school, as far as the scheduling piece, but we still have to use Bound with some of the stuff the state does. So as a conference, we've talked a lot about the last couple of years, are we ready to make the jump to Bound? Well, as a conference, we decided that next year we are going to jump to Bound. But there's different levels of Bound. So as you look at the packaging, we would have to go to at least Bound Pro, which costs us $500, which isn't a big deal. I think our school cost us $750 maybe. And we actually paid the 500, or I paid the 500 for Bound this year too, so I was paying for both. But the big difference it's going to do for our community is instead of going to that our school calendar to find events, everything will be on this Bound. That piece will be the part of where you go to find stuff, where stuff gets promoted from, all of that. The problem or the thing that's going to bring up a lot of discussion is the whole state, I believe, is going to be going to this Let's Go Bound package in the next handful of years. So it's when you want to go to this Let's Go Bound. And with Let's Go Bound, when you look at
You see the two sheets, they're labeled up in the top left corner.
the Let's Go Bound that they really want to push is you get it for no cost to the school, but you have to go with their ticketing process. And that ticketing process takes our $6 ticket right now, and it would push 90 cents transaction fee onto the consumer. So essentially our tickets are $6.90 a ticket instead of $6. And that would be credit card, that would be pre-sale.
Casey, just a quick question. Let's say I walk in, family of 5. Is that 90 cents per 5 tickets or 90 cents for the whole transaction?
So essentially it's bumping your price to get into the game to $6.90.
Okay.
For
Some of
junior
the- and
high,
some of the
they-
prices are not only our school, but conference, right? Like,
That's what it costs to get in a game right now is 6, so it would be $6.90. So if you go to the Mississippi Valley Conference right now, they've been Let's Go Bound. You have to use credit card to get in. Some schools in the WAMAC have said that they're gonna go all in. We had a meeting and our students said they're comfortable going Bound Pro next year, which then we can control our transactions. So that would be the soft entry. So it'd be, I can have the credit card reader that you have to use for all postseason events right now anyway. So we're familiar with how this card reader works. Because the state tells you, you can't take cash, you have to use what this is. So the Bound Pro option, we could offer that credit card reader next year. So you have a choice. Do you want to pay credit card? So my wife, for example, would probably just use her credit card and they'd be in the game. Or you could still pay the $6 cash. So if we went Bound Pro, we'd have the choice of that.
And then either pay $6.90 per ticket or $6 per ticket.
If you had cash, you could pay $6.
What about like activity passes?
So activity passes, that's what's kind of up in there. They're Bound's trying to figure out how they're gonna deal with the WAMAC right now. Because we've been kind of hee-hawing around a little bit on as far as not committing to them. And a lot of these other schools out in Des Moines, they've all went Bound, Mississippi Valley went Bound. The River Valley, I think they go Bound. So pretty much everybody around us that we play, they're jumping in. So it's one of those deals, you rip the Band-Aid off and just go all in, or do we go Bound Pro and still be able to control our ticket sales? Now, when you go Let's Go Bound, you get a lot of bells and whistles with that. So not only is the cost to the school free, you open up their fundraising tools, which, you know, they'll promote that, and you get a rep, basically to do all your scheduling for you, to help you with any mistakes that you make. The conference gets its own rep that is basically an employee at your disposal. But what that one is going to do is they're making their money on our people's 90-cent transaction, which no matter what way you go, if you want to go cashless, they're the cheapest one I've found. This 40, I want to say 45% of it goes to Stripe, which is the third party that they use for the money, and then the Bound gets the other. But with that Bound Pro, you guys could take some more time and look at this and follow up with any questions, because I'm still trying to, I actually spent about an hour on the phone with them today. I'm still trying to understand everything as well. We've met with them a ton, but this Bound platform has, I mean, it really has everything. It can be a one-stop shop for your officials, for your facilities, for your transportation, physicals, communication. So I'd like to see all of our coaches right now. We're on GroupMe, Remind, Team Snap. Bound has that in its system where if we had a kid that was out for 10 things, you know, fine arts and athletics, they have one platform that they know our school is going to use for mass communication. It also gives me a lot better, I can oversee it a lot better. So I really do like that about it. Now, the Bound Pro is, as you can see on the ticketing and pass, they haven't told me that you have to do passes through them. If you do, there's a cost, $1 a pass, pass $150. And
$1 per swipe.
per person at the beginning of the year.
Oh, that's just to issue.
So how much month revenue do we bring in by selling activity passes? Approximately just $75,000?
Probably more than that.
$100,000. Let's say
Yeah,
$100,000 annually, every year, registration, we sell $100,000 worth of activity passes. Are they gonna get their fingers on that?
They are gonna get it as every person comes in that gate, they're getting 45 cents. And Stripe is gonna get.
So how do we keep them, how do we keep them from fleecing, how do we keep them from fleecing our activity pass money? Is there a way?
That's the thing, if we just keep our own activity passes, I
Yeah,
don't know if they're gonna mandate that or not. That's what they're trying to figure out with the WAMAC, because we've tried. I feel like we went to a pretty extreme extent of negotiating the
Yeah.
deal. We're all really scared to sign a contract, like we're gonna be very diligent in what we agree upon. There's some schools that have said they're gonna go bound, let's go bound, which is their best package, and see how it goes. But I don't know that if you don't charge $7 for cash, you know, I don't know, like, I'm gonna bring cash that's gonna send me $1 a kid, right? A lot of people don't though. You know, if you have people from the prairie comes here to play something, their people are upset that we're not taking credit cards. They don't care. They're just so used to using their credit card, that then they're frustrated if they have to go over to the ATM and get cash. So it's one of those that once you get used to it, it's gonna become the norm. I would say people are starting to get used to it. It would be new for our people. I don't like charging an extra 90 cents a person if we're not getting that money. So I mean, you're giving your money out, but you're also paying for a service.
So I'm just still trying, maybe I'm misunderstanding, so help. So I've got a family pass, right? And I show up, I just walk in, got a family pass. They get no transaction out of that, right?
It all matters if you use them for their family pass, so that's on the one that says ticketing and pass speed detail, the top of it. They haven't told me they have to do that yet, so right now we print all of our own family passes.
Yeah.
If you use theirs, everything's gonna be digital, so you have it on your phone, and when you come in to swipe, you would, if I understand it right, you would hit your family pass on that card reader and you're in. And what it does is, their system's really, really good when it comes to the auditing and tracking how many people are in, because everybody's gonna have to check into the game.
Right.
So you'll know at the end of the night, how many people came through the front door.
Sure.
We can be able to track that a little bit.
I just know what I don't want is somebody takes the family pass and then they scan their card again and they get tagged again for.
They would only get targeted one time at the beginning of the year, and I would eat that cost out of their family pass. Like, I just know it says they give us 150 included. So it's one per pack.
Yeah, the way we treat it is that, to Davis's point, it looks like, they're gonna charge us 90 cents plus 5% on where they sell a pass. So if we sell a pass for $100, it's gonna be $105.90 is what you're gonna pay. And then every time I swipe, the first 150 people that swipe at softball, or not softball, at football, first 150 people, we're not gonna get charged, but after that, we're gonna charge $1 per swipe. As people enter an event,
We as in the district.
we as in the district.
Yeah, the only way around it would be to allow all Solon families to get into events for free, and the only people that are paying are people that come from.
But couldn't we be creative? I mean, we continue to sell our own passes, like everything we have.
Depending on what the contract says, that's.
It's all.
But we can hold out. We don't have to agree to any contract like
No,
that.
we can stay bound pro.
Yeah,
You know, that's what I'm kind of leaning towards, but that's a real soft landing. I don't know if it's gonna be a lot harder to get to let's go bound if we go the soft.
Well, and I totally agree that if you have people come over who are used to this. And all they do is bring their credit cards, of course they do. You know, be like getting to the restaurant at the end of the night, and everyone's like, oh, cash only. We're like, what? You know what I mean? So I don't mind if we add a card reader, but,
But how much services are we losing by not doing let's go bound? Is it enough where you're like, hey, I want some of that stuff, but I don't get it because we didn't do the full service?
Yeah, so then you go into their add-on page,
Of course.
so then my 500 goes up. So Sean created a pretty awesome facility tool. So there's a lot of people, I would say over half the schools in our district pay $2,000 a year to use our school's facility thing. We don't use that. We have our own, it works fine. But that would be a big cost on here. I don't really care as much about it. The activity registration, so physicals, concussions, all that stuff, that might cost me 600. So that's a decision we have to think about. Dawn would love that. Because right now we're real old school. I mean, we're still handing in papers, it's in binders. Like this really cleans up a lot of that, and it also sends automatic responses to parents. Your child's physical expires in 1 month. You know, so it's helping us track that. For sponsorship stuff, I know West Delaware's used this and they've had a lot of success with the sponsorship piece. That's just, you know, they help you, you know, bring in some extra revenue.
So
And then
here's,
go ahead.
I was just thinking, here's what I would like to see. Because I'd like this to be in a like pitch proposal of some sort that says, here's the problems we're trying to solve. This tool is going to solve these problems. Here's the amount of money we're going to spend, but here's the amount of money we're going to save, including labor. On what this tool will do. You just mentioned the concussions and, you know, if we spend this much money, however much money are we gonna save? Please include the labor involved in that to say, okay, this is what it's going to ultimately cost. How much are we going to then bring in? What's the, you know, if we charge $9 or whatever, it's not $9, but $6, so it'd be 97. I don't know what this 5% per ticket, if it's above 10, do we charge anything above 10? Does this include also the arts?
Yes, so part of their plan, so we use, what do we use, what's that called? So they would come into our auditorium as part of this too, and they could do the same exact thing at a cheaper rate.
Plays and
Yeah, so our people would have, their whole platform is really a one-stop shop for everybody. So as a community member, you shouldn't really need to go anywhere else but Fallon. Everything's gonna be there. And then the question just becomes, does our district care about a path to cashless? So it's a way cleaner when you're not handling cash.
Yeah, for sure.
Between your ticket takers,
Yeah.
you know, between secretaries running to the bank every day, between having money in your safe.
reconciliation and all of that.
So do we as a district want to be cashless? And that's what a lot of schools, so like CCA's they're still taking some cash, but they've been doing this for a couple of years now. And that was part of their, talking with their AD, they want to get cashless. They don't want any cash in their concession stand. They don't want any cash at their gate. They just want everything to be wired where it needs to go. So with that comes a fee.
Understood. I'm not, I'll be the first to say that is not my goal. Because you just mentioned, let's what we can do to turn down the phones and the usage of the phones. This would require phones and or require every kid coming in the door having a piece of plastic of some sort, activity pass or something else to be able to enter in and engage in our environment. If that's the case, maybe I'm exaggerating, but we just need to fully flush out all of the planned consequences and unintended consequences by going this path.
I do see his point though, like I'm with you. I think in a couple of years, we're not gonna have a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hard part about it, right? The state's probably gonna go with it. You look at like state tickets for any event, or you go to some of these districts, they don't take it. Go to some of these youth events, they don't take cash anymore. I mean,
I get it,
Yeah, I'm just.
but I wanna
thinking
make
it's
sure we
plan.
can plan for when a kid walks and
exactly.
doesn't have something to get in. What are we gonna, like, I just wanna fully think this through as before we go all
Well,
in.
and I think the important thing is, well, just what's the impact on our families financially?
Yeah.
And what's the impact, what money are we potentially losing? I mean, those are the biggest things to me, like what, you know, like. I could, you know, we can figure out some credit card readers, you know what I mean? I mean, like, I don't want to lose, I mean, that's a lot of money. And if you think, I mean, what I worry about is if you buy the pass and then after 150 or whatever, and every time someone comes through our door, that 90 cents is not coming to us at all. It's going to these two other people, and are they, you know what I mean? And we'll just turn on the free Wi-Fi and, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Nobody comes,
Mhm,
you know what I mean?
mhm. I'd like to protect our activity passes for our families.
That's what I was gonna say, if we can bind the community and say, hey, we're going this route of buy activity.
By
passes,
activity passes.
And then this avoids all.
Somehow build it into the like it is now a registration, but making sure they understand you're not gonna be able to do this after you register, like this is it.
Right.
These are separate from everything else, but I still don't know how that'll work, if you're signing the contract.
Yeah.
it's-
We just don't sign the
Well,
contract.
that's my question.
But if
We dictate the contract.
But if the conference says that you have to do this, or if the state says you have to do this,
Well,
we'll still be able to get around it. With the activities passes if we do something different.
Whatever your way is there.
And most of your money that outside the passes, most of your money you bring in is from the visitor side. You know, like most of our people do have passes.
Right.
So I don't see a ton of, other than if you get past that 150, what's that look like? Which that's something that I'm gonna talk to them about this weekend at the convention, because I don't like that's gonna then cost me money.
Right.
That would be the only thing that would cost my account money. Everything else would go on the person coming in.
Yeah.
Now, I will say with their,
These the numbers, I'd like to see, I don't have pretty grasp of those, are we at 150? I'm assuming we're at more than that.
okay with passes, but yeah.
Sure, and so where would that go then per dollar, so how much to that ultimately, because there's a lot of hidden costs in here,
Well, I-
it's spelled out.
I think the key is trying to figure out how we don't even use that.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. We'll just
So
keep
that's
doing
not
daily
the hardest,
passes the way
we
we
do
are.
our own passes
Correct.
completely separate.
100%.
Yes, yes,
Like our activity passes at home.
Yes.
That's for us.
yes,
And then, you know, we're gonna have to pay this out on the road.
yes.
We get it.
And that's only if we go, let's go bound. If we go that bound pro, we don't have to do that. And that's kind of where I think we've been leaning. You still get everything you need as far as scheduling and the families get to see what they get to see. You just miss some of the extra stuff and the rep, the employee essentially. But
But you could add on a feature if you wanted for the concussion protocol.
Good.
That's all covered.
so then it's just figuring out what exactly we want. But I do think, to go to Adam's point, I think within a couple years,
For sure.
I think everybody's gonna be cashless.
Yeah.
Unless that, I don't know if that legislation died. They were trying to make it where the state couldn't do that. I don't know if that one died or not. Did it fall?
I don't think it died.
Hasn't died yet.
I don't think it died. I think it's final.
That would make a difference, because then that would really mess with this.
Yeah, I think,
I just know our seniors struggle with the postseason. And it is, you know, I was buying this thing for multiple people to get into the games, and I would buy the ticket and they would hand me the $6.
right.
But I do know hometowns like their competitors, so the Boys Association uses hometown. I wanna say hometowns at $1.35 a transaction.
And it was more expensive.
So, I mean, Bound has done, I believe when I say like, they have gotten it down.
Yeah.
They're the lowest I've seen.
Well, it's like anything else, it's moving that direction, I mean, how many people can't watch Iowa when it's on Peacock? There's a lot of seniors that it just,
Yeah,
how do you operate that stuff, how do you get a, you know?
Yeah, I think it's but as we said, if we can control our own passes, you know, it can be really reminded. You know, if we look at Solon, look at this, you know, if you've got a parent that's gonna come in for a handful of games, get them a 10, get them a 10-punch pass at the beginning of the season, and then they'll use that to get in. I know there's ways of managing it.
And then their senior pass, like, the postseason's hard on our seniors, because they use that yellow card all year, right?
Right.
And then they get there at the game, they have to pay for it, that card don't work, and then it's, you
Oh,
don't
you
get
need a credit
cash.
card.
Yeah.
Then you just throw money and get mad, and I'm like, I get it, I'm sorry, it's not my choice.
Well, we may wanna look at different levels of activity passes too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe stratify that out, you know, where you got the heavy one, you got kids in sports and fine arts and numerous things where you know, we're gonna be here.
You get one that's like a 10 or 20 punch pass.
Right.
And so we still got punch passes, just no one really uses them anymore.
No, yeah, not many people buy them, we saw a handful every year, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd say get as much info this weekend as you can. Whatever you gotta do to relay it back, email or.
Yeah, like I said, I think for year one, or the first year without art school, which it is a huge change for me too, because I know that inside out, and this is all new. But that Bound Pro might be our safest bet, because then we're controlling. We can figure out kind of for a year what we're doing. We still have control over our monies.
Yeah. And I think the things that will be important as we go through this year, how many people are coming? You know, how many passes did we buy? You know, those sort of things that we can kind of get a better
Then
number.
use it for next year.
Yeah, for you especially, how much money do I have lost? Because that's the last thing I want to do, is pay something else.
And we can pilot this we have this in addition to what we've been doing.
If we go to Bound Pro, I can control everything.
We can
The
still
only difference is I can still take cash at $6. The only difference is that I haven't done yet, except for postseason, is I could offer the card readers and give people choice. So when they get there, they'd rather pay with credit card, knowing that that's gonna cost them 90 cents more. That's their choice to do. And I think a lot of people will just pay with credit card.
Casey,
Restaurants are doing that.
Yes, yeah.
Casey, the one that's team fundraising tools. Some would get 80 and Bound would get 20%. It seems a little steep.
It's less
Yeah.
than, it's less than the current ones.
That's pretty standard, like that vertical raise that we've done, it's that 80-20 split, so what you're doing is. Getting donations and they're doing all the auditing, the marketing, so you're paying that 20% for their service.
Like the football team did.
Yeah,
And
and that's actually the vertical raise is the same one football did, that's the main sponsor of the Iowa track, the IATC right now. So most track teams are running that vertical raise right now. So it's just that type of fundraiser, which we've been told that people would rather just have us ask them for money rather than buying popcorn or candy bars. So I mean, that's been something we've been told. You're just not getting 100% of it, you're getting 80% when you use a platform like that.
Yeah, I think you just be careful on saying that that's what people's preferences are. I think people's preferences differ. I think a lot of people don't like being asked for handouts.
particularly, especially numerous numbers.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's how it's been in the past.
Yeah. That's when we made a push towards more experiential things for the teams to raise money rather than having people schlep door to door or to ask for handouts, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take a quick right turn and pop back on. I know we had friends at West, they had a huge pancake breakfast, all district, all. That was for all their, you know what I mean? So maybe if instead of every team pitches in for one big event. We were just at the Hall of Fame with Kevin, there's some guy at West Dell that raises 50K. Whoever their fundraiser is, he said, I'll help you. I mean, he was honored by their people, he can call West Dell, whoever he is, but they do it one deal, one day. And try and raise all that money for.
Well, and I think too, like softball and baseball, well, softball brought this up last night. I think what U-Trip is doing a big tournament for baseball, and it's gonna net probably $15,000. Because the boys are gonna do the umpiring and facility stuff, get everything ready and stuff like that. It's perfect, better because you're not going, you're bringing people in. Instead of our kids traveling and going to a tournament.
Correct.
Same with basketball, you've done a good job helping with that too. It raises a lot of money in our own school facilities, and our teams don't have to leave.
Yeah.
So.
And the kids who got to get in the game too, like they're helping out,
Concession stand,
Yeah.
taking tickets.
umpiring, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, kind of getting back on this, though, I would say probably the pros, the soft landing, unless you find anything else more compelling.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards.
I just wanna see soapbox again, I just wanna see the financials, because I think there's maybe costs in here that maybe really understand, I just really feel like I need to understand where the money's gonna come from.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna cost us, it's just that ticket money they're gonna make, and then all the schools that use fundraising will.
If that's their cost of $500.
it's gonna cost us $500 if we don't go to the list of package. That's what Pound Pro costs.
Is that,
And we had all the technology and all the features of it.
Yeah, that's standard. I paid more than that for our school right now.
so our
But we
school
don't have to
750,
pay for the software.
No, we're not, it's free if you go to the big massive thing, it's all free, there's no cost to us. They take all that money, but it's not all. More people to come.
They're making,
$500.
That's what I was missing.
yes, they're making their money on the people coming into the game and fundraising and the camps. And you don't have to do the fundraising, you don't have to turn that on, you don't have to use the camps, it's just then they manage all that for you. They're making their money on the tickets, the 45 cents for every person that comes to the subscription fee.
thanks, Casey. Thank you, man, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Board learning, you read the post-watch webinars,
I did.
talking points. Anybody want to share a talking point from the evening?
I'll share, since we just got done with it, I mean, this is where some of this stuff is headed, so. It'll be interesting to see what he comes back with, but. Good discussion.
Dan?
Oh, just, I does such a good job with our numbers and, I'm interested to see what the state comes up with. Just a lot of financial stuff tonight. So,
Bree?
So lots of new information on different jargon than used to, so just taking it in.
Okay. Cassie?
I'm biased, but I really liked the SIAC report out. I was there and it's just good to get the feedback.
And I agree, the SIAC report was good. I think, I really liked the information on the additional apprenticeship opportunities, providing more opportunities for our students. I want to commend our administration, teachers for being able to provide those opportunities as we move forward, so. Zach, do you want to say anything since you're here and you're going to be going off to superintendent your own district? We don't let him talk too much at the end of the meeting, so.
No, thank you, good 8 years.
If there's anything you need from us as you're doing the transition period, please don't hesitate to reach out. We appreciate your dedicated service to the district you're going to miss, so.
Thanks.
yeah, what hats did you wear?
3. Just 3.
Yes. Our next meeting is a public hearing on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. in this room, and then we'll meet again on April 18th in this room again at 5:30 for a public hearing followed by a meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Coons, second by Alaska. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are.